The 9 Years podcast is brought to you in association with Season Master and the Window Workshop. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9 Years podcast. Thank you very much for downloading the show this week. I'm Nick Draper. I am joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins. Stu, have you calmed down from Tuesday night and the defeat to Swindon yet?
I'm not as angry. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of prep today for the pre-match show on Saturday for Harrogate. So that's always sometimes a bit of course, you do the last three results, but actually when you look at, sometimes it gives you a chance to look at the bigger picture, that we're still in the playoff places, and yeah, look forward to another game, innit? But yeah, I'm angry, just as much as everyone else, but I'm not as angry. I don't think I've been as angry for a long while.
No, I very much got that impression from you on Tuesday evening.
I didn't know who to be angry at. Because there was loads of things. Was I angry at the referee? Was I angry at our defenders? Was I angry we didn't put another chance away? There was just loads of anger. But yeah, I'm not as angry. But another game, 6 games to go of the regular season, as we call it.
Yes, I was asked the other day, when does the season finish? And I was like, well, we've got 6 more games in the league, but we could have another 2 or 3 on top of that. Not that I know many people at the moment are very confident, certainly not of 3 more games, maybe 2. Some people are not confident of any more games above the 46. Anyway, we will talk about last week and the dropped points late against Warsaw and Swindon after what happened against Barrow the previous week. We will be looking ahead to the visit of Harrogate. Stu references there. We're going to have a look around League Two. We're going to talk about some financial information, look at some statistics, have a go at my father was a John Joe O'Toole maker as well. I nearly ran out of breath there. But let's start with the most recent, because that's what everyone wants to talk about, as AFC Wimbledon continue to find new and exciting ways of failing to win football matches. A recurring theme since we returned to Plough Lane saw us relegated from League One in the most incredible circumstances. Continued the following season. We shall never forget Salford at home. It's one of those things in Wimbledon folklore, isn't it? Salford at home, 2-1 up in injury time. We conceded a penalty, saved the penalty, still lost the game. I'm still mad when you think about
it. I forgot about that actually. That was a weird one though, because in a way, I think I said to you at the time, their manager run down the touchline like Jose Mourinho at Man U, remember many years ago. But actually, do you know what? I wasn't saying I was pleased for him, but I accepted that. Yeah, that's what you should be celebrating that.
Of
It was
course. Yeah,
they come back and they were fighting for a playoff place, weren't they, and stuff, and we were just at that time shitting the bed,
Yeah.
again. So yeah, but I think the thing with Swindon. Oh well, sorry, talk about Barrow, but
No,
I think
we're talking about Swindon.
yeah, sorry, we're talking about Swindon. Obviously, because it was an away game, and neither of us were there.
Mm.
I don't know what Ian Holloway did after it. Probably too old to get up now, and he bless him.
Wow.
Um,
How old is
hey,
Ian
look,
Holloway? You carry
I
on. I'm
don't
going to
know.
find out how old he is.
Do you know what? I think Ian Holloway is one of the old. There's not going to be many managers like him. Again, it's just the game's changed, isn't it? He did. I don't know if you heard his comment that he, what did he get from Tuesday night? And he said he got that look from Johnny Jackson's face when he realised he was playing Harry Smith at centre half. He said that was priceless, and I don't think that was being derogatory towards Johnny. I think it was going, I've done something that they didn't expect.
Yeah.
And he found it funny. Of course, he wouldn't have found it funny if we'd held on to the league. But there you go.
Mm. He is 62, by the way.
Really,
Yeah, he's
I think
62.
I think he started management reasonably early. He must have. He's hit 1,000 games, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
yeah, he
think,
started his managerial career in 1996, and it wouldn't have been long after. I remember him playing for QPR in the Premier League,
yeah,
so it's been around that time. So yeah.
yeah. But Joe, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with it. He went in there for Sweden. They were struggling, and he's turned around a little bit, hasn't he? But but they reward him with a 2-year contract, which I always worry about that because I always think when you give someone a longer contract, is that fight there that it was before they got the contract?
We might go on to that later. The Harry Smith thing at centre half. So he gave us a bit of a battle really earlier in the season at Plough Lane, if you remember,
Yeah,
when they got a 1-0 draw with us. That old-fashioned big lump up top target man that we saw Aaron Presley. We struggled against him the other week. It's certainly the type of player that we are missing, I would say, especially in circumstances of this past week when you can perhaps have someone that, if you do knock a ball long because you don't want to keep hold of it for whatever reason, then at least you've got a fighting chance of someone making it stick and giving you a bit of relief from some pressure. However, as you say, on Tuesday, he started at centre half. And this was confusing because we brought back John Joe O'Toole into centre half as well, and perhaps with a view to perhaps shackling Smith. So that not only did it completely throw our plans awry, but it didn't even matter in the end anyway because he ended up winning a penalty in the end.
well, yeah. I listened to the Ian Holloway interview, and it was interesting. He sort of said that Harry Smith said he could play there. He obviously felt, yeah, that maybe Wimbledon, we had gone with John Joe O'Toole. I'm not too sure how much of that was impact. I think that's who we had available. I think also with him playing, like he said, he always had the option if worst come to the worst of chucking him up front, which is what he did.
Yeah.
That side of it. I think the frustration for me is that we didn't adapt in the first half to what they'd done. So what I mean by that is quite clever for me in Holloway because he played Harry Smith as a centre of the three centre backs. So if he did get isolated, then there was always going to be cover. But what I also noticed was they played very narrow. The three played very narrow, so the width was where the ball was, and we just didn't until the second half, until Johnny got him in at half time, did we really then expose them around the outside of them.
Mm.
So hey, look, half of me thinks why did we then continue to knock long balls to Omar and to Matty Stevens because that's what they wanted. Even more with Harry Smith in there. Could we have adapted? But hey, look, it's easy to say why do you not adapt your play, but we played like that all season and done
Yeah.
well, haven't we? So but I think the early second half we got around the outsides of them, and that's when. And also, I think the substitution with Marcus Brown was the right one. And there was enough in. The annoying thing is, if you stop the game, I know you can't stop the game at 8 minutes, but there was enough in that game to say we had enough chances to win the game. But
Yeah.
we just got it's mental stuff now. It's just mentality. It's all right saying don't drop, but when you're tired and when you're up against it, all managers will tell you their players drop. No matter how much you tell them to get out, they just drop because it's safer. But then you allow what happened in
Mm.
that last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah. With the penalties. So the Johnny Jackson said afterwards, he felt unfairly treated, harshly treated by the official. He referenced to the number of fouls that had been given against each side, which heavily was against us, and then the two penalties of what he implied neither were penalties. Do you know with the penalties, I have mixed feelings about them. I just think if roles were reversed, we would be screaming for the first one, certainly. If we didn't get that first penalty, we'd have been apoplectic. Second one hits his hand. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think by the letter of the law, I guess he has to give it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think they're both pens. I think they're both pens. The first one, the argument is that Joe Lewis was fouled first, which I agree was.
Yeah,
But the backdrop to that is that we were so deep that we allowed cross after cross to come into the area. So, if you look at Joe Lewis when he got tugged by Harry Smith, he's in the 6 yard area.
mm,
And
mm,
you could argue why Joey Lewis not go down because if he had gone down, possibly he might have got the free kick, but he'd never
yeah,
do that in that area. Defenders don't do that
no,
because
it's such a
But
risk.
Harry Smith is exactly. But Harry Smith is a smart one because actually once he spins Joe Lewis,
Mm,
he then falls over.
yeah,
It's a pen. It's a pen to me. So I get it. I think you could argue both ways, but I try to be objective, and I think I can see the penalty. The second one. Do you know what? Again, it's another one. Owen Goodman, and I get what Johnny's saying about this. There's situations where it happened at corners and stuff, and their keeper got blocked, and it was a free kick.
yeah, but
Owen Goodman's probably not as smart. There is no doubt that he's being backed into.
Yeah.
He's been backed into, so he can only parry it. If he falls over and goes over again, could that be free? I know some people have said it was a throw. Why not just let it in?
Yeah.
You don't think that way in the heat of the moment.
No.
But once, like I say, you could argue there's technically a foul on the keeper, but it wasn't. But then when it comes back in, yeah, it's a handball. It's a
It,
handball. You
this
know,
is why I love the game of football because for me, goalkeepers are overprotected. I didn't see anything really
I
on.
agree.
I wasn't. There wasn't anything really there for me. The
But if you
handball.
look at
I mean, it hits
if
his hand, so I
yeah,
guess it has to
but if
be.
you
But
look at it back, he is backing into the keeper,
yeah,
and at any other corner, that is a.
it's
I
funny though,
think,
isn't it? Because
yeah,
if it's a centre half and a centre forward, and the centre forward's backing into a centre half and pushing it back, that's never given.
that keeper
But
goes off like an alarm, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think, I think there's loads of things. Like I say, I think the fact is they're so close together, and it's the final kick of the game.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So I suppose I get where Johnny's coming from. You just think, give us a break. You know, there's two contentious decisions where it could have gone our way, and neither have gone our way. I think the disappointing for me is that Owen Goodman gets nowhere near the penalties because he's got a very good penalty saving record.
yeah. I thought that actually. But watching it back, it seemed to be the was it Tishamanga, that player?
Yeah,
Seems to be one of those that seems to just delay where he's going to put it until he sees the goalkeeper make a move, and the
yeah.
goalkeeper blinks first.
It's not saying that Owen should save them. It's just that he's got a very good
He
penalty
has got a good
record.
record, yeah, he does. Yeah,
So you were just hoping out of two penalties in close succession, we might end up saving one of them and getting a point. But
yeah,
hey, look, it hurts to get nothing from a game that I felt we'd done. And you know what? People will say they Swindon deserved a point based on, sorry, deserved the win or deserved a point based on the game. I still say if you're 1-0 up going into the 90th minute, what
oh, of
happens all
course,
before doesn't really pay. What happens before doesn't really come into it because ultimately you've just got to see that game out.
yeah,
Um, but I think we made. Hey, look, I think we made some errors. Squad management game to make only two subs. We made one on the back of us going.
yeah,
Was it
the
Josh Kelly at
equaliser,
one? What? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
1-0, yeah,
I felt that we had to kill that game. Do you remember early season the amount of times keepers went down for nothing so that everyone can go over to the touchline and have a
yeah, of
drink?
course, yeah, yeah,
I can't remember the last time we've done that. We definitely haven't done that in the three games we've had where we've led. We haven't killed the clock with substitutions. Like we have three windows open to us. We could have killed the clock. I just felt, did we get caught up in it? Did we feel the game? Did we feel that, do you know what? We can't possibly do it three times on the trot and give
yeah.
away. But I just don't think we've killed the game. And there was many options to us to do it, and we didn't. And hey, look, it's this stage of season to do that is just like, what must the mentality be like of the guys?
Earlier in the season, we absolutely 100% did all those things in slowing the game up. We were
Yep.
very sensible about it. The amount of time it would take to restart. We'd have Omar like to go down and get treatment.
Yeah.
He was smart with that, breaking the game up. We absolutely did it. Now, against Barrow, I can understand us perhaps not doing it because we scored the second goal late. And I think we were
I
just
agree.
on the high of, we'd had a bit of a
Yep.
dodgy spell and we thought, oh, here's another win off the back of the Carlisle win, on the back of the Notts County win. And I think we probably got a bit carried away. So I can kind of understand that one.
Yep.
Warsaw, don't know why we didn't do that. Tuesday night, not a clue. Can't explain it, to be honest with you, um, at all. You talk about selection as well. Substitutes is one thing. I want to come on to that very shortly, actually. But just before we do on team selection, we mentioned that John Joe O'Toole came in. Um,
Yep.
he played in the centre of the three. So he pushed Joe Lewis onto the right hand side, Isaac onto the left of the three. I don't
Yep.
think it suits O'Toole. I don't think it suits the other two. I think Oggs is better on the right, and Joe Lewis is better. I think his best position is the centre of the three. To be honest, and I know that
Yep.
Joe's done this a few times recently. Hutchinson's come in and played in that middle one. You tend to play the player perhaps with the least pace to perhaps be the last one. So in a similar vein as sort of Harry Smith, if he's
Mm.
caught, you've got people that can get back, and Joe Lewis does have pace to get back, but I just didn't think it suited them. So in the end, I suppose it's immaterial because actually in open play and whatever, we got away with it. There was only two penalties injury time, but I just thought there that it's awkward because I just didn't think that suited anyone really.
No, I agree. I agree. But again, the argument is we probably got away with it. What didn't help was Joe Lewis getting a booking early on.
True.
So that didn't help. Again, you could say, is it because he's wide of the three, or he just brought the player down and got a book in, and then John Joe too, to O'Toole got a book in.
Yeah.
Doesn't help when you've got two of your three centre halves on a booking.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that dictated the game too much. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things of high. Yeah, we seem to at the moment. I think my biggest challenge or concern was that John Joe O'Toole hadn't played any football
Yeah.
for a little while. We don't have and it's something that I've said to you before. We don't have a reserve league,
Yeah.
and unless games are being played behind closed doors and we're not being told of it, I don't know when last time we played a 45-minute or a 90-minute. And training's great, but it doesn't replace match time.
Yeah.
Um, and do you know what? I think you're gonna be a bit short. You're gonna be a little bit rusty. Um, but that's a bigger issue for me in terms of how we've got our reserve set up and how we're managing the squad not playing.
Mm.
Because we did it with Riley Highbottle come in for the Walsall game, didn't he?
Yeah.
You're asking a lot. They're good players, but you're asking them to come in and hit the ground running, especially in a position that, our defence has been so strong all season.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to look at if you're playing it like the last five or last six games, you probably could see as many goals in those games as we did for like probably a block of 20 before that.
Yeah.
If you think about Notts County game, get a clean sheet, we get loads of clean sheets, but it's difficult to know. It's difficult to know because I think mentality's got a massive thing to do with it. And for whatever reason, we are just coming up short. Yeah, players could be tired, but then you could argue most teams should be tired. But we are just coming up short in the mentality. And the problem you've got now is that every game now going on to it, we're all going to get anxious.
Yeah. I mean,
Where really yeah.
the trick to it is for us to be losing. We want to be losing with 5 minutes to go, and that will cure any anxiety, baby. But
Yeah. But yeah, look, it's not the time to hit a run of form like this. And yeah,
yeah.
it's worrying.
All that said, the last three goals we have conceded have been set pieces. The two penalties and the free kick against Warsaw. We'll come on to the free kick against Warsaw in a minute.
Yeah.
A result, as you say, on Tuesday night and Saturday, in fairness, of us dropping deeper and deeper as the game was worn on, protecting the lead. But isn't that? I said that's what we do. That's what we've done all season. Our way of going about games and the best way about us going about games is sitting back and trying to catch teams on the break because we have ability on the break and we've got pace on the break with Josh Nerfil. And James Tilley gets forward and gets in forward in numbers on the counter attack. Marcus Brown we've seen is good on the break when he's got space to play and run into. So really, what it boils down to, as you say, is that we've got punished with a free kick, and then we've got punished with fouls and a handball in the box. And I know mentality, yes, absolutely, but I agree with you. It's just mental tiredness, just mental fatigue, isn't it? Like this stage of the season, and if you are inviting pressure, you're being bombarded with balls in the box. Something's going to crack, I guess, and that's how I'm explaining the first penalty, at least,
Yeah.
with
No,
the pool.
yeah, you're right. You're right that we have done that all season, dropped, and defended. But I don't think we've dropped as much as we have. Definitely all our players. So one of the things that Walsall and even more against Swindon was that every time we got the ball, we just aimlessly knocked it into their half.
Mm.
Um, and yet we had nobody up. Whereas before we've had it where there was many times against Walsall and definitely against Swindon where we could have actually travelled with the ball a little bit,
Yeah,
drawn a foul or,
yeah,
taken out the pitch. But we just literally our first instinct was to hook. And then I think at one point Swindon had one player in their half and he was right on the halfway line, just literally knocking it straight back in. And we weren't getting out. So it just needed it's like anything. If you're gonna defend your box, you got a chance. But we were so deep, absolutely so deep. I think that's our problem. There's killing the clock and there's doing what we did of literally just hooking the ball into nowhere and then going, right, you got the ball again, come and attack us. And that's what we weren't doing. Now the argument is, well, these games are more serious now in terms of a regular season games, the games at home to like Newport and stuff like that. They're running the mill games. This is the business end of the season, so people are fighting.
mm.
But football doesn't change, do the basics right and you're okay. And we haven't done that. but we're in a rubbish. It's probably our worst form that we've had whole season. We've been consistent the whole season until now, and the problem is now it's all right. Us fans going, well, come on, we can get back on this, but form isn't like a tap, is it? You can't just turn a tap on and go right. We'll go back. Look at Walsall. And you know what the frustrating thing with Walsall is that they should have been shitting a brick at home,
Yeah.
going a goal down.
Yeah.
We should have been pushing out, and because actually, but what we encouraged them to get back into it.
Yeah.
And the goal is, yeah, there's a shot of the goal from face on that it's just, I don't get it. Don't get it.
But do you know what? So this is the free kick that Walsall scored with the equaliser, and I'll come back onto Walsall in a second, actually. Do you know what I was wondering about that? I was thinking, is there an argument? Who were the two? Was it Omar and Alistair Smith? Were they the two that went?
Ali Smith was in the wall. No, it was Johnson. It was
Johnson. Yeah, Johnson and Omar. They're the ones that go to their right.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the wall stays where it is. But is there an argument that they thought we've watched a slowed down version of it, right? Really, really slowed down.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Happens like that. And in the moment, I'm just thinking they're moving before the ball is kicked. So I think they're thinking it's going the other side, and they've tried to, and that's been the downfall. Now, why they would think that, I don't know, but I think that's what they were probably thinking. Perhaps they thought he wasn't going to try and get it over the wall, the near side, because he couldn't or whatever it was, and he'd try and bend it. That's my explanation for why it split so badly.
You're right. I think when you say, when that sort of free kick, your goalkeeper defends the side that the wall's not covering.
Yeah.
And you basically go, if you get over the wall into the goal, well done. But ultimately, I'm going to cover that side of it. So you're right. It could be that. I think the frustrating is we've got a sizable wall. And in the end, it goes over, it's Omar's gap.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That it goes through. And if he, it's his head height, but it's just gone. So, because when you look at the goal, you're sitting there thinking, I hadn't seen that angle for a little while. You're thinking, how has he got it up and over that distance and Owen being nowhere near it?
Yeah.
But when you see that angle, and I get it. The funny thing is, actually, we had the same situation against Swindon on Tuesday night, and the wall stayed strong and headed it away. Which is, we've obviously gone and look, that isn't good enough. And Omar and John O'Brien, to be fair, Omar's the one that moves. It's not like Omar's not, she normally will take knock after knock after knock. You've just got to look at his shins and stuff to know that he will. Yeah, but for some reason we've just split, and it's cost us 2 points.
Warsaw, you said about their form, and you can't just turn it back on that easily. But what I will say, the difference between us and Warsaw at the minute and why they're still top is that they've drawn their last 4 games, but in 3 of them, they're the ones coming back and getting the equaliser. And it was late against us on Saturday. It was late against Doncaster on Tuesday. In fact, it was even later against Doncaster on Tuesday, away from home. So they've got, even though they have got this poor run of 2 wins in 14 or whatever it is, when you start doing that, you know that you've got a team that are pushing and fighting and have got belief. And we do seem to be lacking that a little bit at the moment, which is
I've watched Walsall quite a bit. They've been on TV quite a bit, and to be honest with you, they were a lot better against us than they have been against other teams. And I wouldn't begrudge them a point, because I thought on a balance of play, I thought they probably deserved that point. But the annoying thing is that that's probably given them more confidence to then go to the Doncaster game.
Yeah, true.
If we won that, and I know it's if and buts, we win that game with 3 points behind Walsall.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, at one point, with 10 minutes to go on Tuesday night, with them losing and us winning, we were 3 points behind them and could go top of the league on Saturday.
Yeah,
I don't think we could actually because of other things.
No, but it was really tight at Port Vale beating Bradford. And again, I've watched Port Vale quite a bit this season. They are not anything great.
No, but they've got better individuals, like we said in this podcast before.
Yeah, I think better individuals, but ultimately maybe just utilising their squad a lot better. Well, I think we've definitely got to. Hey, look, I think we've definitely got to look at. This isn't us just moaning for the sake of moaning. We've said it on the podcast for probably since
You've been
January.
saying this for a long time. Yeah, you have.
Yeah, and I don't want to be proved right, and I'm not saying I'm being proved right, but there's definitely, we are. It's interesting. Not Mick Dore does his blog, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I didn't read it until about an hour ago because I really couldn't be bothered to even look back at the game, let alone talk about it. But he makes a really good point in terms of we're a high energy team. We're a
Yeah.
high energy team. We press high, we run to the last minute, and can we keep good? And it's actually a really good argument. You know, we are a high energy team, but it can't be any coincidence that we are looking leggy. And looking leggy as a team, I'm not going to highlight one person, which I think we all seen on social media that Jake Reeves is the one that's getting the grief for slowing the game down, doing all the things that he's been doing all season.
Yeah.
But because now we're struggling, I think we've got to be careful not to. Yes, you expect a lot from your captain. He set high standards, but um, I don't. From memory, last time I was hearing about the data, Jake Reeves runs the most distance per game every game.
Yeah.
And I'll be amazed if that's dropped on that side of it. I think we're looking for our better players to come out and do something. So your argument is, Jake, if you look at our best players, arguably both our fullbacks and down the spine, Joe Lewis, Omar, Jake.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they've all looked a little bit. Omar was obviously away for international duty. Joe Lewis has some really challenging games against really good forwards. And Jake, a lot of time, we've been outnumbered in the middle 3-2. But we've gone with that a lot this season because our gamble with that is actually if we go 3-2 in the midfield, we can get our wide players out and get them. And not more often than not, we've overloaded on the wide areas, and that's why Josh and James Hillier are, 4 or 5 goals each.
Yeah.
They're just, Joe. I get it. I get it when we're struggling and we're not winning. We've got to look for a scapegoat, but let's look for a scapegoat after the season, not now. We need to get behind every one of these players, and no matter how difficult it is. But yeah, we got to be careful not to do the George Frankham syndrome of just blaming one player.
Yeah. It's never one player's fault. I mean, exception to the rule, Liam Trotter obviously ruined us for many, many seasons.
Yeah.
But you never have any complaints with this team, like I said before, in this squad about work rate and effort or anything like that. You can never
No.
level that at them. And so I find it very, very difficult to criticize or get angry because that's all I sort of asked for, really. And things go against you. Like Walsall didn't upset me at all, really, to be honest with you, because I thought, you know what, I'll take a point away at Walsall, even though they're struggling. They're still top of the league. I'll still take it. Tuesday night was just one of those where you just kind of think, did that actually just happen? I'll tell you why, actually. Because what actually happened to me on Tuesday night was I had a parents' evening. So I had a very late finish on Tuesday, and it completely threw me because then I was getting home almost just in time, really, for the game to start. So it was all a bit weird. Like I got home and I sat down and I was like, and then team news pops up and I was like, what? What? And then I realized my timings and routine was all out of whack. Um, Half time, roughly half time, I think I fell asleep and I woke up with about 10 minutes of the game to go. Saw we were 1-0 up and I did that horrendous thing where I thought we're not going to throw away a lead 3 games in a row. And then the equaliser happened and I thought, well, okay, all right, fair enough. To then lose it from there is just, yeah, is just unreal. You cannot believe that. So my emotion was not so much anger. I think it was just disbelief, to be honest with you. Like I was trying to comprehend had this actually just happened. But you're right, Stuart. I think we're not. If players weren't putting in the effort in, if they weren't, it's like that. Do you remember that old Ron Atkinson post-match interview on Sky where he threw the head? He got really angry with Rich Kitchen,
Yeah.
threw the headset, and then sort of really apologised, like, "Oh shit, sorry." But he was just like, "I'm not going to go and hammer them. They'd lost, but he's like, I'm not going to go and hammer them for that, for because levels of effort, levels of work are all there. It's just perhaps, as you say, we're lacking a little bit of. We're a bit tired, mentally and physically. And do you know what also, Stu? Maybe this is a tight division. I don't think there's much between the teams. And maybe just individually, we aren't as good as perhaps we thought we are.
Yeah. Look, I was saying to you before we started, we've not been out of the playoff, or we've not been lower than seventh since match day 19th when we won 3-0 away at Harrogate.
Match day 19, Stu. You mean after 19 games? Let's go with that.
Yeah. So, you've got to argue that we've been in there and abouts all season, consistently good
Yeah,
all
yeah,
season.
yeah.
And I think isn't that, this is the busiest part of the season. We saw it, we've unfortunately a little bit long in the tooth. We saw it last year where we dropped out. Although, as I said to you before, we were only in the playoffs for a little while. Actually, we were always on the outside trying to get in rather than on the inside trying to not get out. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. But I think the Swindon, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at Walsall and Swindon just because of the fact that if we're going to do anything this season, you've got to close the game out. You've got to close the game out. It's just, especially if we're going to go out through the playoffs again, we're going to get in them situations again, and it's something where defensively, we've shit the bed with goals being conceded, but we've still got the best defensive records.
Yeah.
We had it by miles, but unfortunately, if you look at a game over a 6, 8 game form guide, we're terrible. We're the lowest in the form guide we've been all season.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that annoys me, Walsall, I can live with a little bit free kick. The Swindon one, they use 5 subs. They put 3 on at once and then another 2. So they replaced half their team. Now, to me, you've got energy levels, mentality, right, is up there, isn't it? But when you're tired, you make bad decisions.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But we have to kill the clock or get some fresh legs on. We had Sasu on the bench, Harbottle on the bench, Kelly on the bench. I just feel that's, as a team, and you class the management team on that, we just didn't make the right decisions. And so when you're tired, and of course you're tired, but when you've replaced half your team, and of course the team that's pushing for an equaliser, of course, is going to make the braver decisions. But when you see that and you've actually gone, right, you've got 5 players out there who are technically fitter, not fitter, but match fitness.
Yeah.
Going to be able to put it in, and we're struggling and we didn't do it. And I think, like I say, we got caught up in the moment. But we've got, as a squad and a management team and players, we've got to be smarter. We've got to learn from these lessons, because we've now got a 6-game season to hang on to a playoff place. At one point, I think we were 7 points clear of anyone near. Now we're 4 points.
Yeah.
And you're looking and going, and one of them is Crew. And no disrespect to Crew, but they have had the worst season ever.
Well,
they've had some. Well, it's probably like Carlisle have.
I was going to say, well, Derby in 2008, I think.
Okay, maybe an overreaction, but when you look at their results, like I remember beginning to say they got 5 or 6. Chesterfield beat them at home.
Yeah,
we've been quite comfortably.
Yeah,
they're a lot of their. You just look and go, they are still on the outskirts. But the argument probably is they probably draw a lot more games.
Is it also not an argument to say that the league is not the strongest this year, or it depends how you phrase that one?
There's no outrunner.
Yeah, there's very much of a muchness in terms of all at a sort of maybe similar level. That's not to say actually that the teams and players are actually weaker, perhaps, but as you said, it's just a lot tighter.
There's no Wrexham spending £9 million on wages, or Stockport spending £7 million on wages.
Yeah.
We've still got a few in our league, as we know. Hey, look, the strongest team financially should be the team up the road with a soulless place in Buckinghamshire.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's really weird last night, because I laughed my head off and Notts County winning done us no favours whatsoever.
Oh no, but I don't. Yeah, no, I was pleased with that result.
That was their 20th defeat out of 40-game season. They have lost. They have lost half their games,
amazing.
And they probably have got the strongest budget.
Yeah, they do.
Which takes the argument away. What's budget? We say it many times, don't we? But yeah, a weird one. But yeah, like I say, there's not a Stockport, there's not a Wrexham. Their financial data is unreal, and probably shows why this league. I wouldn't say it's a poor league. It's just not got those squads that are inflated heavily by money they can afford to throw away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I want to talk about that in a sec, the money side and the data side. But just to go back to your earlier point about the subs and the fact that Swindon made the 5 subs and we only made the 2. There's 2 parts to it. Johnny Jackson is naturally more reserved, more reticent to make changes, a little bit more defensively minded or risk averse, perhaps. The other argument is he just doesn't rate the subs. And I know I sort of suggested this the other day, but as you say rightly when I mentioned that point, it doesn't matter whether he rates them or not. You just need the fresh legs on. You just need someone to stretch and give you
or kill the clock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but maybe he just doesn't. He doesn't rate Sasu. He doesn't rate Josh Kelly. He clearly does not rate Joe Pigott. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's not even. This is why I say, as a squad, we've got to be better, because the squad and the management team as a whole make all decisions. So you could go, well, Johnny Jackson makes subs. He's got two coaches alongside him, Joey Skiverton and Dave Reddington, who, if you look, there was quite, and again, it's difficult when you're not there because you can only see when they go to the bench. But there was a couple of occasions where they looked deep in conversation about what to do. And for whatever reason, they've made that decision and it could have come off and we could have gone, right, Joe, what, we've done well, we kept the squad. It's all hindsight. It's the greatest thing in the world, isn't it? But we've got to learn from these three games and go, can we use the squad better? Can we do subs quicker? But you're right, Johnny is a risk averse. He's been that the whole way through. Nothing has changed. He's not doing anything that we go, well, that's out of character.
Yeah.
That's what he does. But not him alone, but it hasn't worked. And the interesting thing about his interview, I'll be truthful, I'm not one about keep going on about referees. I think we go on about them way too much, and that's not just us. That's a lot of people. The first thing is to blame the first thing is to blame protect the players. Well, if you don't keep protecting these referees, you ain't going to have many of them left to have a game. So I'm a little bit, I don't. But I get it's a deflecting thing. One thing he does say, it's interesting. He said he did actually say he started it with, I don't normally want to say this, but Harrogate is a must-win game. That was a really interesting comment in his post-match. And post-match is so difficult. We've seen Johnny come out after being beat, and the last thing you want to do is talk to anybody, let alone the press. And
of course.
But he does say that. He does say it's a must-win game, and he doesn't say that, but Harrogate is a must-win game. That's interesting. But you know what? Look at the 6 games to go. We've got Doncaster and Port Vale still to play. Grimsby away last game of the season.
Chesterfield.
You're probably all right. Chesterfield. I mean, so you look at it and go, well, actually, it's a must-win because actually, out of all our fixtures, this is probably the one that we should.
Yeah.
Never guarantee anything in life, but it's definitely the team out of all of them that is not doing as well in the league.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Well, we will in a little while come on and look ahead to that game on Saturday. You mentioned there Dave Reddington and Terry Skiverton. Dave Reddington, of course, from Teddington, and Terry Skiverton from Tiverton. Johnny Jackson from Whackton. Oh,
Yeah,
Acton.
Anyway.
No.
Oh.
Kind of. Yeah.
Well, it's close. It's London, isn't it?
Yeah, he lives that sort of way, doesn't he? I don't know. Anyway. Finances, you've referenced it there. There was a little bit of talk about... Oh, sorry. No, even before finances. Just to wrap up the week, can we just say, amongst all of this, the massive positive is that Omar Bugle scored his first goal in like 164 months or something. And he took it very, very well. And the goal we scored on Tuesday was phenomenally well worked. And one of the things I've been saying is that we sometimes struggle when teams defend against us and put men in the box. As you say, Swindon with their 3 centre-halves defended very narrow and tried to defend the box. We struggled to break those teams down, but we worked it a really fantastically well-worked goal on Tuesday night as well. I think that's got lost in the shuffle about how well we created that situation. And yes.
Yeah, do you know what? And do you know what? I was drastically trying to take anything from Barrow as a positive, and I was saying the fact that Matty Stevens has scored a goal in I think 6 or 7 games, and you can see by the way he celebrated that it was on his mind naturally. Then the other positive is Omar Bagel has scored a goal. It's the first one since Tranmere away. So the positives to take away from anything of this is that both our our forwards have both scored goals. And we are going to need them to score goals. So the positives are, both. Matty Stevens has got his 21st. I think Omar's got his 7th for the season. But you know what? Sometimes the goals are the ones you haven't got to think about. Matty Stevens crossed on the right,
instinctive almost.
Omar literally just comes onto him. Such a great finish.
Yeah.
But yeah. Positives. 6 games to go. Will soon be summer.
Yeah, and we are still, with 6 games to go, 6th in the league. This is, as far as I'm aware, it is like we've had 2 top half finishes since we got promoted back into the Football League in 2011. We're going to have another one this season with 6 games to go with 6th in the league. So yes, I understand the frustration, and people say, well, we're in such a great position, we don't want to lose it. But hey, it's still in our hands, and we've got a very, very winnable game on Saturday against Harrogate. But before we get onto that, you were saying about budgets and finances and some of the figures coming out this week on the amount of money that Football League teams have lost and have had to be what's the word? Rescued almost by owners and benefactors ploughing in millions of pounds, just shows you once again the world in which we live in, and hence probably why we have to pay a little bit extra for our season ticket.
Yeah, well, it's the end of financial year, so a lot of data's coming out. Kieran Maguire was quite funny. He showed a shot of his mailbox with like 4,000 emails, and he said that's all company house, giving him updates. So he's done some interesting ones. Hey, look, there's a lot. You know, Wrexham. To be fair, right, as much as Wrexham have bought a lot of, they've put a lot of money in. They bought like £25 million revenue, £13 million that sponsorship. It's quite incredible for a League One side. You know, you have to say that. How sustainable it is, we never know.
No.
Fleetwood, like lost what, 9 million. Salford lost about 5 million. Yeah, do you know what? There was one that I saw, and obviously something that's close to you is Luton's financial figures were released.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting? So I think they had about 140 million quid come in
Mm.
the Premier League season, but they only spent 57% of that on wages.
Yeah.
But there was an interesting. So I looked at their revenue for the last 6 seasons. I think 2019 they were in League One,
Yep.
and their TV revenue was 1.9 million.
Oh God. Okay.
The season before they went up
Yeah.
to Premier League, it was 10.1 million.
Yeah.
The Premier League season was 130 million.
Yeah. Jesus. Shame. Just.
The difference. No, remember I was saying to you about the split between the Championship was 8%
Yeah.
Championship, 12% League One,
Yeah.
8% League Two.
Yeah.
You can see that, so £1 million in League One to £10 million in Championship. That's a big enough
Yeah.
drop, but to 130 million
Oh, that's ridiculous.
in
It,
one season,
it
unreal.
feels like one big cartel. It feels like just an absolute con, to be honest with you, because all that money is coming from TV money, but it's also, but the TV companies are giving the football this much money in millions, and then the advertisers are giving Sky, because I mean their revenue is mainly advertisers. Surely, I don't know how many subscribers actually go to Sky Sports, but
Do you know what's
it's
interesting? When you look at it, yeah, when you look at it, it had commercial and ticket revenue.
yeah,
So, of course, their ticket revenue actually didn't increase that much, probably
no,
£200,000, because obviously you can't get much more into Kenilworth
no, you
Road.
can't. They can't get any more in. Yeah,
I think their commercial went up by about 5 or 6 million. But
yeah.
those numbers were normal if you think about you going up a level. But 130 million quid was what admired me the most was the fact that they had the lowest percentage compared to revenue on salaries.
Yeah.
I think it said their highest average. I think their average salary is 26,000 a
A
week.
year?
Yeah. But it just shows you they're very prudent. Yes, they got relegated. Yes, they're having a terrible time in the championship.
Yeah,
But
but that,
they're set up for,
yeah.
yeah, just that gap, 10 million to 130 million. It's just there's your problem.
Mm.
There's your problem.
Luton Town, of course, are fan owned. And people are going to get
Yep.
upset with me for saying this, but they're
No?
privately owned, but they are fan owned. So yeah,
Yep.
we are
Yeah,
trust owned.
it's the thing, isn't it? Whenever the model comes up for question, people go, "Oh yeah, but what about this? What about this club? What about this club?" And you then chuck Luton in, and people go quiet.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't use do one club, but we can all stats and data can all be used. The biggest one we've got, right, going back to League Two level, is we've got clubs like Salford and Fleetwood who are happy to lose
I know.
millions,
Yeah.
and it's covered by shares, loans. Like Fleetwood isn't just 9 million. I think it's like 40 million quid debt
I must
over
admit
a certain period.
that's the one I really don't get as well because we all know what happened with their former owner, chairman,
Yeah,
whatever he was.
yeah, yeah,
And yet still somehow they seem to be happily financed. And anyway, I don't understand
yeah.
that one personally, but anyway.
No, and the thing is, I noticed Cambridge, I think, had lost like 5 million quid, and
Okay.
they're in League One. So if we are still in League Two next year, clubs coming down are still spending more money than they get come through the revenue. It just shows you sustainability is a massive problem, and it also shows we put our season tickets up and our prices up to try and compete. Oh no, I don't even mean trying to compete, trying to make sure we can cover what we have and try and make sure we don't lose a loss. But we've got clubs that are just happily losing millions and millions,
Yep.
and that ain't going to just stop overnight. It just shows you the constant battle, no matter what league we're going to be in over the next 5 years. It's, we are up against it, and we haven't got a sugar daddy or sugar mummy or sugar auntie to to get us out of the shit.
Sugar auntie.
I don't know. Well, when I said sugar daddy, I'm trying to make sure I'm politically correct. A sugar person.
Sugar person. I think you're on
Sugar
safe.
devil day.
Sugar. Do you know I've got a friend who suffers with incontinence, right? And
Yeah.
he goes by the pronouns we.
Uh, I encourage a dad joke. Worry him.
I've got another one for you very shortly. Should we go into it now, actually,
Yeah, let's go
before
into it.
we before we say anything else? But it's interesting because you're talking about the end of the financial year, and of course, spirits are in the sky. But Apple have announced that their profits are down, but their turnover
Okay.
is excellent. Apple turnover, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I just tried not to laugh.
No,
So
in fact,
it started the program we were just talking about before we come on,
yes,
laughing out. What's it called?
the
Lots of
last one
laughter.
laughing.
Tayfi. I knew it was LOL. I'm trying to think what it stands for.
Yeah, last one laughing. On Amazon
Yeah.
Prime, if you have not yet checked it out, it is a very enjoyable show. Yes, Bob Mortimer's like a national treasure, isn't he? Really.
He is. Do you know what? My wife was watching it and she was like, I don't really find him funny. But then she laughed at everything he did.
Yeah.
Like, not a spoiler alert. If he does a magic, this is magic. It's the most ridiculous routine I've ever seen, but I've laughed. I couldn't stop. Couldn't stop laughing. I'd be rubbish at a game. I wouldn't even get into the building, but you know.
All right. I was just thinking if we ever played that game, the simple way to make everyone laugh or anyone laugh is just show them Milton Keynes' position in the league and their average attendance. And I think they've done quite well this week because I think they conceded 7 goals in 2 games, which is phenomenal achievement. So this is to applaud Milton Keynes for being
Do you know what I was trying to think
absolute
of
shit bastards.
I was trying to think who their manager was, but I'm thinking like they can't sack another manager. No one left to manage that team, is there?
Who is their manager at the minute? I don't actually
I
know.
have no idea.
No, I
But
don't know.
let's be fair, they could probably be sacked as well because of their form.
They
But
probably have been already. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, anyway, they are funny every way possible.
Talking about things on TV, Stu, have you seen Adolescence yet? Have you seen it? Have you seen Adolescence yet? Have anyone asked you about Adolescence? Have you heard about Adolescence yet?
Yeah, I watched it a couple of weeks ago. Powerful stuff.
No, I've not watched it, and I won't now because I just can't.
It won't be much news because of your profession.
Yes.
You're not going to be overly surprised, possibly.
No, of course not. But you know me, Stu. How many years have I been saying about social media and the internet and everything? How much? But I mean, with respect though, it is still a drama show. It's not. It shouldn't be in Parliament discussing this. It's incredible to me.
It is powerful. But do you know what? I watched it mainly because obviously what's up. But Stephen Graham is an excellent actor.
Yes, despite his lack of surname
and Scouser.
No.
But yeah, it's powerful stuff. Obviously, having a child myself, it does worry me what they're going to be seeing in the future, especially what they're going to be seeing at Wimbledon, what league they're going to be in, and how much debt. I'm not joking. I'm joking.
I mean, to be fair, when I was younger, there was a show called The Demon Headmaster, and I thought that shed a light on the problems of magical, demonic teachers brainwashing children. So I think we probably should show that in schools as well. But anyway. My father was a John Joe O'Toole maker.
Yes.
Cryptic clue. Lenny's friend in front of Wimbledon Quarter.
Has this got a reference to Harrogate, by the way, and nothing at all?
No.
Wimbledon Court. Chris Perry. No logic. But I'm rubbish on the cryptics.
It's good, but it's not right. He was a winning goal scorer in Wimbledon's last ever Premier League win.
Oh, it's not John Hartson because his last goal. I'm going to go for Jason Ewell.
Good. It's good. Question 3, clue 3. Academy product who went on to play for Newcastle and Wolves.
Oh, cool.
There we go.
That was my toss-up between the two. I'm trying to think. Did Jason? I'm trying to think with Jason Newell, did he actually play that much towards that end? That's the same player that didn't play.
Well, funny enough though, because he did actually win us a penalty on that same game. So Carl Court scored the winner against Leicester in March 2000. Actually, March the 11th, 2000, and that's because that's my dad's birthday. March the 11th, not 2000. That wouldn't work. Jason Newell won the penalty that we won that day, and who scored that penalty?
Neil Ardley, probably.
Neil Ardley, yeah, Neil Ardley. So,
when you look back, it's really interesting. I looked back at some highlights because there's not actually a goal review of that season, believe it or not. Probably didn't bother to do it.
I do believe that.
But you actually forget the amount of players that were injured. You know, Robbie Earl and stuff like that. You actually forget. And I think some are out of favour because obviously the manager come in and wanted to have a certain style of play. But yeah. Anyway, let's not think.
Well, no, let's just very quickly, because I remember going down to Richardson Evans towards the end of that season and watching them train. And it was noticeable that all the Scandinavian players were training together and all the English players, British players, Britain and the Republic of Ireland players were all training separately. And yeah, that was not, that was a bit of a worry.
There's been a lot. Obviously, for the podcast, we interviewed Neil Ardley. And he spoke very candidly about Olsen, but I think there's a lot of players that would be really good now to get interviews with, because we've said, haven't we, as time goes, people speak a bit more because they're not in the game, or it's not as, but there's still a lot of questions back to that period, which actually brings us in nicely. Terry Burton is guest of honour for Saturday's game.
There'll be some extra edge to that game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Terry Burton being,
But let's be fair. He stood up massively to the owners and stuff like that, which at that point wasn't probably football politically the right thing to do if you want another job in football, but he did it, and it'd be great. It's amazing it's taken so long for us to get him back to Plough Lane, but it's going to be great to see him on Saturday and hearing how he is and what he's been doing and stuff like that. I don't know how old he is now. It must be, what, 60s easy?
He must be older than, well, if Ian Holloway is 62, Terry Burton's got to be older than that, surely.
That's very true. Very true.
So,
but excellent coach, He was very much, a lot of people that joke in here was the manager, but Terry Burton was the one out on the training pitch a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So a very, very good coach.
Absolutely. To finish off with My Father Was John Joe Toolmaker, Lenny's friend in front of Wimbledon Quarter. Lenny's friend, another Simpsons reference, sorry Stu, Carl, Wimbledon Quarter, Centre Court. So there we go. That's how that one worked. So Harrogate visit Plough Lane. Last season, you will remember that Harrogate came to Plough Lane and played against a Wimbledon team wearing red in one of the more surreal moments in my time watching Wimbledon. Maybe it was a tribute to Red Jacket Man from we talk about Salford being in the pantheon of Wimbledon legendary stories. Red Jacket Man will forever be remembered by those at Millwall that day. But Harrogate this season, hopefully we'll be back in blue. Not sure why we weren't, to be honest with you. At least one of Walsall and Swindon. I'm sure we could have managed it. But Harrogate are fifth bottom, and they are 9 points clear of Morecambe in the final relegation place. They have not lost in 3, and they're a bit shit, to be honest with you.
Hey, look, it's interesting. We had John Murray as he was a guest for the Barrow game. John Murray, who's the legendary commentator of BBC Radio 5. And I was chatting to him about League Two, and he's seen quite a bit because he lives Harrogate is his local team. And I was saying about how a lot of teams in League Two and below try and play this perfect game from the Premier League, and they can't. And he did comment. He said, he saw Harrogate begin the season, lovely football. He saw them recently, a lot more long ball. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because actually, when push comes to shove and you want to make sure you keep your league status, you sometimes don't thing playing over football. I mean, they play a lovely game. It'd be interesting to see. I think they're no doubt safe. I would have thought on 45.
They're running.
Unlike,
Their
yeah.
running is, I'm just looking at it. So they've got us away, then they play Grimsby, Walsall, Fleetwood, Notts County, and then they finish away at Morecambe.
Wow. Interesting, because when you look at it, 45 points, Gillingham on 45 and Franchise on 46. So if we're saying that Harrogate aren't safe yet, we're also saying them other teams are not
They're
safe
not.
yet.
Yeah.
Interestingly, yeah. Do you know what? I'm just looking at Harrogate's. They've not beaten anybody in the top 8 away from home. Their away form's not great. They've only won at Colchester and Barrow and Gillingham. That's their 3 away wins. So, hey, look, do you know what? We'd expect to win, but we know this part of the season. People got points to pay for. They obviously still got points to play for. It's a tough game. I'm not as confident. I won't lie. I'm not as confident because you can't be with our form.
Is this one where you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier about when we sort of anything we do and changes we make, we all see coming because we do nothing surprising in sort of team selection or formation or anything like that? Is this not an opportunity on Saturday? And it's a risk, of course it is. So of course it won't happen because we only really have one way of playing. Do we need 3 centre halves for Harrogate at home? Is this not one where we say, do you know what? Let's do something different. Let's go for the old 2-3-5 formation or something. Two
Yeah.
centre halves.
The old Christmas tree
The old Christmas
formation.
tree. There we go. We can get. We just need 2 centre halves. Josh and Tilly can be like full backs, but actually wing backs, and we just stick numbers forward. Because I think 3 centre halves against Harrogate, don't need them, do we?
Do you know what? There's an argument for that. There's also another argument which I'm starting to think about now is that we've got to be realistic and automatic promotion is going to be tough now with the gap. 5-point gap in a 6-game season is difficult to overturn.
Yes. Yeah.
So my sort of thinking now is, do we start preparing for the playoffs in the back of our mind? But you've got to think that you've got to sometimes think that way. So do we now start? The squad is not weak. Do we now start giving some players a rest? On the thinking, actually, do you know what? We might need to have these players fit, fresh, ready for, because it is a playoff. You see many teams do that.
Yeah. True.
For a playoff campaign, and ultimately, I'm not saying we give up automatic promotion, but you've got to say it's going to be difficult now. Even though we do play Port Vale and Doncaster and Chesterfield. So there's an argument. There's an argument for a change of formation. That's unlikely.
Yeah, I know.
But in terms of looking at our squad with a viewpoint because if we don't do that, if we keep playing the same squad and we going into playoffs I said earlier about turning the tap on. You can't all of a sudden finish a 46th game against Grimsby and go, right, now we're in a cup competition now, let's start again. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, true.
So I was wondering whether, we've got quite a few players back. We've obviously got no John Joe at all.